3, 2, 1, go.
Greetings, Facebook Live. Welcome to WKYC Studios. Ben Axelrod, Matt Florjancic, come to you live moments after the Cleveland Browns' 40-25 victory over the Baltimore Ravens in Week 4 of the 2019 NFL season. And Matt, it's been a season of up and downs to this point, and I think we can classify today as an up for the Cleveland Browns.
No question. Today was a great day at the office for the Browns. They got a little bit of everything. A couple Austin Seibert field goals. They got a huge rushing day from Nick Chubb. Jarvis Landry had a great first three quarters before he was knocked out of the game. Baker Mayfield made plays, and then Ricky Seals-Jones out of nowhere comes up with some of the biggest catches of the day. So it was and then also the defense, by the way, credit to them. Lamar Jackson is not an easy guy to hem in. They sacked him 4 times and forced 2 interceptions from him, and then also a fumble from Mark Ingram.
Yeah, and with that, the Browns now in first place of the AFC North through the first 4 weeks of the season at 2-2 on the year, tied with the Ravens. Technically, they have the head-to-head tiebreaker, but still a lot of division football left to be played for the Browns. This was their division opener. And really, you know, a game for the Browns they controlled for the most part. They came out, they struck first with that 9-yard touchdown pass from Baker Mayfield to today's most unlikely star, Ricky Seals-Jones. And I thought that was key because I think when you get ahead of the Ravens and the Browns stayed ahead, they never fell behind the Ravens in this game. It got tied up a couple of times, but the Browns stayed ahead. I think you turned Lamar Jackson into a different player, and that was something we saw throughout the game, and then especially in the second half when the Browns got up 2 scores. It just seemed like it was too much for Lamar to overcome with how reliant he often is on his legs.
Yeah, they did a good job to bottle him up and really take away the running game by continuing to score points and drive after drive and having those response scores to, I believe, every Ravens touchdown except for the last one. The Browns had a response to it. When you're able to do that, you put a lot of pressure on the quarterback to go make plays, and he's not used to having to make plays with his arm to come from behind in games in the fourth quarter. So to be able to do that, I think really kind of threw the Ravens off balance. Like they got hit in the mouth real quick. And the point of interest that I found in the game, the Browns won the toss and took the ball.
Yeah.
In today's NFL, you rarely see that, but they wanted to start from in front. And now they didn't end up scoring on their first drive, but they also forced the 3 and out on their first defensive drive of the game. So, and then the Browns were able to get that go-ahead touchdown and never look back. That was a big thing for them, is starting fast, and they were able to do that, and they never let up.
Yeah, and they forced Lamar Jackson into 2 interceptions, forced a fumble on Mark Ingram, the Ravens running back, and for the most part capitalized on those turnovers. I thought that was key. That was key to building the lead and you know, forcing Lamar Jackson to play from behind. Nick Chubb, though, I think if there was a star of this game, it was Nick Chubb. 20 carries, 165 yards, and 3 touchdowns, including that 88-yard run in the fourth quarter that, even with 9 minutes left, pretty much sealed that game.
Yeah, it felt like that was a backbreaker. Anytime you give up a long run, it affects you negatively. But when it goes to the house, 88 yards on you, I think it's a double, if not triple, effect in the negative way. The Ravens weren't able to recover. They had gotten it down to 6 points in the fourth quarter, and the Browns just stepped on the gas. They did to the Ravens what the Titans did to the Browns in Week 1. They handled business in the fourth quarter, and this is a team that, you know, going into today was outscored by like 31 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I thought there were actually a lot of similarities between this game for the Browns and the game the Titans played in Week 1 against the Browns, just as far as, you know, you get ahead and you try to build on that lead and maybe the other team fights back, and then you just have those back-breaking plays, and we saw so many of them with the Browns. This Browns defense, though, going back to Week 2 against the Jets, where they only gave up 3 points last week, facing a really good Rams offense, they only allowed 20 points. And then this week, gave up 25 points, although that
7 of that didn't matter.
That last touchdown was pretty much tacked on with the game in hand. This Browns defense has been undermanned. Christian Kirksey on IR. The secondary out. The starting secondary out all of last week. This week only Demarius Randall returns. But for all the hype this Browns offense got, this defense is holding up its end of the bargain and then some.
Yeah, the offense really last week felt like they let down the defense, because when you limit the Rams to 20 points, you think, hey, we got a pretty good shot to win this game, but the offense just sputtered. Today was not the case. Defense generated some turnovers. Offense took advantage. And really, this is the first multi-turnover game that they've had this year, where they've really done a good job to not only get possession of the ball, but then turn it into points. So really happy about the defensive effort. The guys that are playing maybe in roles that they weren't expected to fulfill this year, guys like T.J. Carey, Terrence Mitchell, the backup safety Eric Murray, and then
Jordan
Mac
Whitehead.
Wilson, Jermaine Whitehead came in and had a good game as well. Actually had a pick of Lamar Jackson on a deep ball, and they all look good. And the best compliment I can give them is when I watch the game, I notice them when they make plays, but I don't notice them giving up those big plays.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a great point. Just looking at the box score here, I think at this point in the show we're contractually obligated to talk about Baker Mayfield. 20 for 30, 342 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, only sacked once. Almost like a quiet 342 yards. I know there were 2 long passes, or 1 long pass to Ricky Seals-Jones, and then a long 65-yarder to Jarvis Landry, but the Browns did what they needed to do through the air to the tune of 342 yards, but it felt like it was the ground game that was more established. And I think that's ultimately a good thing, though, for this Browns team. Odell Beckham Jr. only 2 catches for 20 yards. Odell Beckham Jr. is like this team's ceiling, and the fact that they didn't even scratch the surface for what they can do with Odell still tells you there's still a lot of room for this Browns offense to get even better.
Yeah, offensively they did what we wanted to see going into the game. They established Nick Chubb. They got the short game going, and then those turned into longer gains as the game went on. It was a perfect offensive game plan, and it was executed well by the players. So everything looks like it's going in a positive direction there, which was the exact opposite of what we felt last Sunday night at First Energy Stadium, where the offense couldn't get anything going. They really did a good job, and they did it against a very physical Ravens defense on the road.
Yeah.
So now they're 2-0 on the road, have a chance to be 3-0 next week, but they have to find a way to take that road success and mimic it in front of the home fans.
Yeah, and we talked about what this game means as far as the Browns' schedule going to San Francisco for Monday Night Football next week, facing the Seahawks at home the week after that, bye week, and then the Patriots. This leaves you with a little bit of margin for error now. I'd imagine they'll be close to favored in that 49ers game. They'll probably be favored in that Seahawks game. They won't be favored against the Patriots, but I think you could conceivably go 1-2 the rest of the way here through these next 4 weeks. And with the way that back schedule sets up with 2 games against the Bengals, 2 games against the Steelers, game against the Bills, game against the Dolphins, game against the Cardinals, they have some margin for error now. You'd like to see them keep the momentum going.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
to me, this is the game that almost wipes out that Titans loss, and it means a little bit more because it is a division game.
Yeah, it was almost like winning 2 games because it was negative in the Ravens column, it was positive in the Browns. Big win today, and hopefully they can keep that momentum going. Like you said, they want to be heading into that bye week at around 500, maybe a game under, but no more than that, because that back end of the schedule really sets up nicely. If they're even close to 500, they have a chance to really seize control of this AFC North division.
Yeah. On the flip side, one of the negatives from today, Jarvis Landry, 8 receptions for 167 yards. That's not a negative. What is a negative, though, is he left the game with a concussion. That usually doesn't bode well. A lot can change in the next 8 days, and maybe the extra day heading into Monday Night Football could help. But Jarvis Landry's status up in the air now for next week and maybe for the short-term future. On the flip side of that, though, Antonio Callaway comes back from suspension next week, and Rashard Higgins seems to be getting closer with his knee injury. So you could lose Landry but gain two of your contributors. But it's definitely something to keep an eye on, especially Damian Ratley was one player who stood out as putting together one of the more poor performances.
Yeah, he didn't have a very good day at the office. There was a drop pass where Beckham launched a beautiful throw down the sideline that went literally right through Ratley's hands. He got hit with a couple of penalties. He just looked out of sorts and out of sync. And that was actually after a pretty good start. He was hit with a pass early in the game and got a first down, but never really seemed to put it together after that. And they put a lot of faith in him by putting him on this roster despite him missing 3 weeks of training camp, and they haven't gotten the payback that they want. And now with the wide receiver room getting a little bit more crowded with potentially Higgins and Callaway coming back next week, you have to look at it and say, okay, where does Ratley fit?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's one thing is he was definitely, he was kind of a bottom of the barrel roster guy at the end of cuts, and then he's been, on the field a lot these last 4 weeks, and you think that might change now over the last or over the course of the upcoming schedule. Looking ahead, 49ers next week. They're coming off a bye week. A big game for the Browns, Monday Night Football primetime, heading to the West Coast. What are your early thoughts on the Niners?
It's always difficult to make that cross-country trip and to have the primetime lights on and going up against a team that had an extra week to prepare for you. But I'm feeling pretty good today about where the Browns are going into that Monday night game. I thought it was winnable at the beginning of the season. I think you and I both were kind of in the minority on that. We thought, hey, look, the Niners are better than they have been, but they're still not great. They're beatable. And I still feel the same way. I feel the Browns can go out and handle their business and come back with a 3-2 record.
Yeah, I think there's actually a lot of similarities between the 49ers and the Ravens in terms of Jimmy Garoppolo, that if you can get ahead with Jimmy Garoppolo, you feel good about some of the things you can do with him as your quarterback. But as an opponent, if you can get him to play from behind, you're going to force him into mistakes. You're going to force him into errors. And that's what we saw today with Lamar Jackson. And we see that's how this Browns defense thrives. So I think kind of the same thing. You jump out to an early lead and pound the ball with Nick Chubb and take your chances. I think they're going to need a big Odell game, though. I really do. And,
especially if Landry's not able to go.
And I think, looking at Odell's numbers the last 2 weeks, they've been a little underwhelming, but we know what he's capable of. We saw what he's capable of the last time the Browns were on Monday night. So definitely going to be a fun couple of weeks coming up here and definitely going to mean a lot for what's left of the schedule.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting week in Berea to see how the guys handle the win. They're going to get an extra day off. They're going to probably start their on-field work Thursday and then maybe fly out Friday. But with that extra day, maybe not. Maybe they'll just fly out Saturday. So the schedule's going to get a little jumbled for the players, but it's up to them to handle the distractions that come with it. But there's a reason why they're playing on Monday Night Football. People believe in them, and they have to go and prove it now.
Yep, most definitely. Looks like some Browns are at the podium now. Nick Chubb, Freddie Kitchens.
There's going to be a lot of Browns going to the podium today after victories.
A lot of podium games for the Browns today. We will have you covered all throughout the night, throughout the week on WKYC.com on the Browns' latest victory and heading into next week's game against the San Francisco 49ers. So for Matt Florjancic, I am Ben Axelrod. Thanks for watching on Facebook Live.